Hey everybody, welcome back to Money and Music. I am Doc. Today we're going to be listening to some heavy hitters in the finance and music industry.
If you can buy a soda, you can invest.
We own hip hop, but we don't own rap music.
What's the cliche statement? If you hang around 5 rich people, you'll be the 6th.
I listen to his music because he's talking about, hey, how much farther he wants to go.
And I tell people in my business, I turn dreamers into doers.
Welcome back to Money and Music. I'm your host, Doc Fuller, and we've had somebody that I've been actually waiting for weeks to join us, a realtor with New Dawn Realty. She's going to give you all the game, let you know exactly what you need to be doing. I want to welcome Lauren Summers. Lauren, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So Lauren, as a realtor, right, why did you even decide to go into realty? And what does your day-to-day even look like?
I got into real estate back in 2011. I was in college, just had a baby, knew I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. Back then, the market had crashed. There's a lot of foreclosures out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I wanted to start a business. I have been looking for a house for myself, and most of them have been, destroyed. So I wanted to start a business doing small repairs, clean outs, things like that. So other realtors can start putting their properties on the market for market value, and not just pennies on the dollar. So fast forward to 2018, I decided to leave corporate. I had set a goal for myself. I wanted to work for 5 years in the corporate world.
Okay.
Some lessons to be learned there, but then I decided I wanted to venture on my own. And I knew real estate was an industry that I really wanted to get back to, and I wanted to understand, because I believe that's how you build wealth. So it's been three and a half years now.
Okay.
And I've learned a lot.
Congrats. That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you. So I've been evolving. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do,
Mhm.
but now I'm doing more investing, rental properties, fix and flips, working on getting my broker's license, getting some agents under me, things of that nature.
Whoa. So not only are you a realtor, but you're doing real estate investing as well?
Yes.
That's dope. So how does that even work, right? So with the MLS and all of these different things, how do you navigate that? Because you have clients, right, that you're
Right.
showing properties to. They're trying to
Yes.
sell properties, buy properties. And so how do you navigate all of those waters with doing that stuff, plus trying to buy and sell on your own?
Uh, there's a little realtor humor. It says sleep is for those that don't have access to the MLS. So a lot of late nights, just looking for opportunity. A lot of times I'm looking for my client and I'll run across something
Mhm.
that I like, whether it be in a neighborhood, a lot of times I'm looking for things that are off market as well.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I spend most of my day, doing research. I have clients that invest, and then I have clients that are just looking for a home for themselves. So it's a good mix up of clientele and their needs.
Okay. And so you mentioned MLS. MLS, can you explain what that means?
Multiple listing services. So that's where we put all the properties. When we have somebody that wants to sell their home, we
Okay.
put it on the MLS, and that's where it goes like nationwide. It'll push out to like Zillow, Realtor.com, Troya, Redfin, all those websites. But that's what agents use to put in all the information on the property, the square footage, the bedrooms,
Mhm.
everything you would need to know.
So I have some of our viewers out there, maybe in high school, maybe in college. Um, can you buy real estate that at that age, that early in your lifespan? And what's the best website or where to go get it if it's on all these different platforms?
Definitely. So I bought my house. I was 19 years old, fresh out of high school.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, I was having a baby and I wanted, property. I didn't know much about buying a house or anything. I just knew rent was expensive.
Wait. So 19,
Yes.
having a baby, and buying real estate.
Yes, I actually closed the day after, or the day before I went into labor. I think that actually put me into labor.
What?
But yeah, so I was 19 and like I said, I knew renting was expensive.
Hmm.
So I asked a family member of mine, like, hey, can I buy a house? And they were like, yeah. And I started looking into the process, and hooked up with a realtor that, was willing to spend their time with me. Of course, my budget wasn't really big, but now it turns out, that's probably the best decision of my life because the property has appreciated.
Hmm.
I probably have about 200,000 worth of equity in my home.
Whoa. That's and like even if you have money in your 401k, which is a retirement account when you're working and the employer contributes to, right? The max per year is 19.5 that you can contribute.
Okay.
How long would it take to 200,000, right?
Right.
You would have to put 19.5 for 10 years to equal 195,000, and you have that in one piece of property. That's
Exactly.
dope.
Yeah, it was a good decision. And now I have capital. I don't have to sell the home to access it. I can go get a home equity line of credit. If I want to purchase a commercial building, if I want to invest in a business, buy a business, things like that, I have the capital to do so because I have a line of credit.
Right.
So it really, like I said, it was a game changer and probably the best little bit of advice anybody could have gave me.
So we actually have a little bit in common right there because I was 19 when I bought my first condo, and it was out. So I was in Connecticut, right outside. So I went to the University of Connecticut, but the condo was in New Haven, Connecticut, not too far from Southern Connecticut State University, Yale, all of that. So I bought it when the property was depressed. The market had bottomed out, and they just had all of these real estate, pieces of property on the market.
Yeah.
Bought my condo for $28,000 and sold it, I think 6 years later for $88,000.
Wow. Do you remember what the payment was on that?
The payment was, I think, $297 a month.
You can't live anywhere for that.
297, because we're talking about like a really, really small mortgage, right? In over 30 years. What was crazy, Lauren, is that the HOA fees was higher than my mortgage. I think my mortgage was only like 150, and then my HOA I think was like 200. So I think combined it was like 350 or something like that. But like it was really
that's
small.
insane.
Yeah.
But that allows you to do, other things as you grow in your career, make
Mhm.
more money, just having that really low overhead. At least for me, it's allowed me to invest in other places because my mortgage is so cheap.
Yeah, and then what I think was dope about investing, right? In real estate, you have all of this equity now that you can pull out and invest in other properties. So when you're looking at how do you flip one property to the next, are you selling your original? You say you still have it, right? But should you sell and use that to buy other pieces of real estate, or pull out equity and then purchase other real estate?
I'll plan to hold on to it.
Okay.
I'll probably buy another house soon for my family, and we'll turn that into a rental and
Mhm.
be able to make, $1,000 a month off of that. So, and I don't see, in Atlanta anything slowing down anytime soon. So I think I'll probably hold on and it'll continue to appreciate. But no, I don't have to sell the property to be able to access that and invest in other things. I do fix and flips, so I can use that money for that to be able to be a cash buyer. For there's some other avenues I can use as well, but that
Mhm.
really gives me more of a margin, being able to access those funds.
So you mentioned fix and flips, right?
Mhm.
I'm 20. Let's say I'm 21. Now I want to get into real estate. How can I get into the fix and flip game, or should you go another route?
So I see a lot of people right now do what's called wholesaling.
Mhm.
So that's basically, I mentioned the properties that are off market. So what wholesalers do is they find properties that are distressed, or maybe the owner has a situation they need to be able to sell quickly.
Mhm.
So they'll get it under contract. They'll say, okay, I'll buy your house for 75,000. And then they have this network of investors that are like me doing fix and flips, and they'll go and say, okay, I have this property for 95,000. And a lot of times they make as much money as I do, and they don't have to do anything. They don't use their own money. They don't have to put any work into
They're
it.
just tying up the property and then finding another buyer.
Right, exactly. So they put it under contract. The contract is assignable, which means I have the right to assign it to an end buyer. And then at closing, they get their check and they don't do anything. They don't have to have any money. It takes work. It takes a lot of work. But that's the best way to get into fix and flips before you even have capital to do so.
Yeah, and I have friends that doing this arbitrage business with real estate, right? Rental arbitrage, where they have an asset they tie up the asset and actually make money on it. So like in rental arbitrage business, it's like signing a commercial lease at an apartment complex and then renting it out and putting it on Airbnb, right?
Exactly.
It's like taking something that has value, finding another user that's willing to pay more value for that same thing, and then you have passive income. So I know you said that like $1,000 a month you can just have coming in like clockwork, right?
Mhm.
And have that asset making money for you. Like, what's the goal? Like, how do we get to generational wealth?
I mean, ultimately, using that strategy, but you have to start somewhere. So that both of those are good starting grounds for anybody that doesn't have money. I have people that call me anytime I have a property listed for rent. I get those calls,
Hmm.
people asking, it's called subleasing.
Right.
So they ask if I'd be willing to allow them to sublease. One of the selling points is it's always being turned over, it's always being clean, so it's going to be better maintained.
Hmm.
So those are two ways to get into it. Another strategy, if you're working a job and you can show income for a consistent amount of time, is multifamily properties. I have clients that are investing in multifamily, and I tell them anybody that's willing to live, in a like townhome or apartment kind of environment, you're gonna have somebody next to you, maybe just one neighbor, but if you're able to live like that, you're single, you don't have kids yet, that's
Hmm.
a good starting place because you can buy what's called a triplex. It has three different units, and then you live in one, and then you rent out the other two. So say the mortgage, you're paying 1,300 a month,
Right.
but you're charging these other units, 800 a month. So now you're getting paid 16, you're getting paid $300 just to live, and you're living for free.
So you have a mortgage, but you don't have a mortgage payment.
Exactly. So that's
That's
a
fire.
great starting place as well. And you can do that if you don't own a property already.
Hmm.
That can be your first property, and you would buy it using a regular conventional or FHA loan.
Hmm.
You only need like 3 or 5% down. So that's a good starting place. Once you buy a property and you have a primary residence, it's going to be considered an investment property.
Hmm.
If you try to buy multifamily later, and they're going to ask for 20% down. So I always tell people start there,
Hmm.
allow that to be your first property. And then, later on you can move on, or you can continue the strategy, move on, buy a quadruplex or buy another duplex. And, you can continue to move and use these loans as long as it's an improvement. You can continue to get conventional loans. And before you know it, you have 5, 10 multifamily properties. So I've had a client do that. He started real young, probably like 20,
Hmm.
bought his first duplex, lived in one side. It paid about half his rent, and he was responsible for the other half. Then he moved on to a triplex. Then he bought a quadruplex out in Athens. And then he bought a couple more. So when he decided to liquidate because he wanted to invest in some stocks, he had the money to do so. And they go quickly, investors love them. So you'll never have a problem selling it at all. So he sold one for like 200,000. I think he owned it free and clear. So he was able to take that money and start investing in the stock market.
So what I think a lot of things, they talk about ownership, right? We don't own a lot of stuff, right? We don't own the land that was promised to us. We don't own a lot of property, right? So when you do have a piece of property, do you just keep flipping it to get bigger properties, or do you hold on to the property, buy a second, third, fourth, fifth, and like never sell and gift that to your kids, avoid capital gains and all that?
Yeah, I mean, if you can afford to hold on to it and, you have income coming from other places, hold on to it as long as you can. You see people, you have, your grandparents might have property, things like that. They pass away. People are like, I don't know what to do with it, end up selling it. Like, hold on to that. They worked hard to get that. And it's going to continue to appreciate as long as the market remains healthy. So I'm always for holding, but there's different strategies for different properties.
So I think one of the things now is that properties have like just escalated in price. Like the valuation out there now is just ridiculous. It's like there's properties that were 100,000 2 years ago that's now worth 225. So is now a good buying time, or what would you recommend to a new buyer?
Um, I mean, that's what you want. But if you decide to wait, it might be 225 now, but next year it might be 250.
Mm.
So there's really never a time. A lot of people say I'm going to wait for the market to crash, things like that. You never know when it's going to happen. I had clients tell me that last year, and now they're completely priced out. They can't find anything. Um,
Like you can't time the market, right?
exactly. Yeah. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And hopefully our market remains healthy, especially here in Atlanta where we have so many businesses moving to Atlanta. I think it's going to continue to appreciate. So I tell people not to wait. And right now, interest rates are really, really low, and that has a big impact on your payment as well.
Mhm.
So that's kind of incentivizing more buyers to get out there and purchase just to
Mhm.
take advantage of those low rates.
Got it, got it. So Lauren, this is money and music, right? So as a hip hop aficionado, I like to claim myself to be. As a hip hop aficionado, I love the fact that music integrates a lot of these lessons about talking to us about how we can invest and multi-generational wealth and things like that.
Mm.
Are there some lyrics that you know of that kind of speaks to either investing or real estate or just being a boss?
Yeah, so one of my favorite artists is Jay-Z. I was raised in New Jersey, so I love, Northern music. But he's one of my favorite artists, and he did a freestyle. It was a tribute to Nipsey.
Mhm.
And he started off talking about gentrify your own hood before the people do it. A lot of people talk about gentrification, like it's a bad thing, but it's going to happen. There's no stopping it. Development is going to continue. So basically, what he was saying there is encouraging people to get in on it. Don't let others come from out of town, these large corporations,
Mhm.
buy property, invest, do it for your own family before these people do it.
Mhm.
He talks about eminent domain, which you don't see a lot of anymore, but that's the concept of local authority was able to take property for whatever use they saw fit. Thankfully, that's not really an issue anymore, but a lot was taken from us. So now's the time that we need to go and we need to be purchasing. We need to have ownership because, like I said, it's going to happen no matter what. So that freestyle, when I heard that, I was like, "Ooh!" Like there's just so many bars, so much people don't understand in there when it comes to redlining and those types of concepts. I
Mhm.
definitely encourage anybody to look into the history of redlining because it had an impact for generations and generations.
Yes, indeed. I think we learned a lot with you today, Lauren. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I think you offer a lot of wealth of knowledge. I love what you're doing on the investment side, and I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you because I think I may want to buy some multifamily properties myself. So, if I'm looking in the Atlanta market, I'm definitely going to have to come check you out.
Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
definitely. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.